California's Governor Gavin Newsom just posted the most insane ad ever.
We're almost there. You're gonna make it.
Trump Republicans want to criminalize young Alabama women who travel for reproductive care.
Miss, I'm gonna need you to step out of the vehicle, take a pregnancy test.
Stop them by taking action at righttotravel.org.
Now, idiots online argue that this ad isn't actually from Newsom, despite the fact that Campaign for Democracy is his pack, and Newsom actually tweeted this insane ad against Alabama on his own Twitter, to which the replies called it unhinged even for him. How insane his levels of propaganda have gotten, pointing out how outlandish it would be for police to straight up make traffic stops with pregnancy tests. Now, I'm shocked but not surprised, as this really seems to be the go-to move for the hyper-left, never actually addressing the issues their voters are actually dealing with, but fabricating some spooky scenario that would be scary if it had any semblance of reality. Because I know it's unhinged, you know it's unhinged, but somehow this actually scared his base. Because when you look at far-left social media sites like Reddit, even in the Joe Rogan subreddit, they're responding, "This isn't unhinged, I live in Alabama, this wouldn't happen, but maybe something similar." And going back to their classic, Trump and the Republicans are going to do it. Now, I don't normally listen to comments, especially Reddit replies, but it is good to sometimes peer into the would-be minds of far-left social media sites just to see how their logic copes with a constant stream of idiocy. Because when you see someone on r/Los Angeles asking about the safety on the LA Metro for a woman traveling solo, the replies were filled with, "It's gonna be fine, just keep your guard up, carry pepper spray and a knife, ignore the replies bringing up the stabbing today, again, just bring pepper spray and a knife." And real quick, just so you know, in a lot of instances this advice in California could be a felony, but then again, I wouldn't suggest taking any sort of safety advice from Reddit, as right after they talked about how safe the metro was, this same subreddit posted about the woman that got stabbed on the metro and ultimately lost her life. And 3 days later, today, another man got knifed on the metro. When the local news station tried to cover the uptick in crime on the metro, they also got attacked.
While we were reporting on all of the violence, we watched as a man we thought was a passenger began harassing other people that were waiting for the bus, when suddenly he began turning himself anger on himself and then on us. Watch as he knocks down our camera and then comes back, picks up our tripod and slams it against our news van. All of this unprovoked. We never spoke to him.
And even Metro board members are afraid to take the metro.
I mean, I hate to say it, I will not ride our transit system by myself. I am afraid, and I sit on Metro, but I will not ride it.
And that's just the reoccurring theme that we see with all these deep blue politicians. I lived in LA for over a decade and a half, and it always seemed like the people implementing terrible policies to destroy safety in the city never seemed to have to suffer the consequences of their own actions. But that is finally changing, as recently the mayor of San Jose was attacked by a random guy on the street where his bodyguard actually had to go in and fight him. A Democrat running for California Senate had his luggage stolen in San Francisco yesterday, and Los Angeles' mayor had her home broken into earlier this week, as this is the second time in under 2 years. Now, this is a bit of poetic justice when these pro-crime politicians end up being the victim of the same crimes that they so desperately try to decriminalize. But this stuff doesn't impact them as much as it would, say, me or you. I don't walk around with a bodyguard that can scuffle with people on my behalf, and if my suit was stolen, I wouldn't have the cash to quickly replace it, let alone belongings from my own home. And all of these were reasons why I personally left LA. Nobody I knew back there cared about the fictitious scenario of coppers administering pregnancy tests on traffic stops. They care about the rampant homelessness increasing the levels of violence around their homes, schools, and workplaces that apparently California spent $24 billion on solving, didn't track how it was spent, and it only increased homelessness. And now we'll spend over $120 million on luxury housing for the homeless in Santa Monica, costing over $1 million per unit, which will likely go up in flames as the future residents have a history of this. Where expensive high-rises are vandalized and law enforcement has done little to stop them, as criminals are free to take over the streets, loot their local liquor stores with little to no repercussions. Our southern border is more than wide open, allowing migrants to simply walk into the country, or even crash boats into the coast to sneak into our country, then go to our airports and get priority lines for their free flights to wherever they'd like to fly on the taxpayer's dime. are burger restaurants now having to pay over $20 an hour to attract workers. Meanwhile, Newsom's own restaurant only pays $16 an hour with an exemption. And if you want an education to get out of this line of work, the public university in UCLA has been taken over by activists.
You guys are proud of shouting for Intifada? Yeah?
Even the private school in USC has also been taken over, where they're even canceling their graduation ceremony. And if you want to escape, their bridges are always getting blocked by those same so-called activists. That is, if you can afford it, as our gasoline prices are taxed so much they're nearly double the price of what it is just one state over. So no wonder California saw such a massive exodus that for the first time in its history, their population declined so bad that they actually lost a seat in Congress. And what is their governor doing in response to any of this?
Right now, a big part of my focus and why I'm so focused on Arizona and providing doctors from Arizona the ability to come into California through emergency legislation we'll introduce with our Women's Caucus this week is to address the crisis at hand with that law that will go into effect on May 1st to provide access to women and girls that are fleeing the state of Arizona, and to focus on Arizona electorally, to focus on Nevada electorally, that will play potentially an outsized role in this election.
And again, it's just this fake grandstanding on fabricated scenarios that would make them the good guy, if it wasn't for the fact that they're conveniently ignoring all the real-world issues they're creating. Because I know the choice in life argument is hotly debated, but I always find it interesting that when these topics trend online, it's always the places that aren't losing those rights that seem to be marching in the streets, shrieking over these spooky Republicans, and never those deep red areas seem to have those same movements. Because when these laws are passed, we never see these huge exoduses of people from red states to blue states, the same way we see the opposite when people are fleeing crime, taxes, or oftentimes a combination of the two. So what do the Democrats do in response? They make up some unhinged ad about a dystopian nightmare that would be the police pulling you over to take a pregnancy test. And according to Reddit, that has riled up their base into supporting them over some made-up scenario to get them good and scared. So much that they'll actually ignore the less sensationalized issues that they're facing. Their wide-open border, rampant crime everywhere, and unlimited spending making the cost of living so inflated not even a $20 an hour fast food worker could afford it. So you get what you vote for, and if you're dumb enough to fall for their fear-mongering, you probably don't even deserve to afford food. But if you appreciate my concise, lighthearted commentary on the tragic status that is today's reality, hopefully I've earned your subscription, then go check out the video on how these activists appear to be rain dancing for a ceasefire.